Hey, everybody. So, today I wanted to share with you how much longer Apple is going to continue to support the Intel Macs that they made in 2020 and earlier, and how many more of those Mac OS upgrades and security updates you all will get if you happen to still be running an Intel Mac. So, as many of you know, Apple transitioned the Mac lineup to Apple Silicon starting in 2020, and they completed that transition in 2023 because they finally finished updating all of the Macs to Apple Silicon. So, since the transition started, Apple quickly started dropping support for Intel Macs on newer versions of macOS. And so that raises the question that we wanted to discuss today: how much longer will Intel Macs receive software support? Well, Apple delivers around 5 years of software support and software updates for most of their devices. And so that gives us a good idea of how much longer Intel Macs will be around. So with Apple's latest release, macOS Sequoia, there's only a few Intel Macs that are still being supported. They're the 2018 Mac Mini, the 2019 and 2020 iMac models, the 2017 iMac Pro, the 2020 MacBook Air, the 2018 through 2020 MacBook Pro models, and the 2019 Mac Pro. Now, nearly all the remaining Intel machines were released right before the transition to Apple Silicon or very close to it. The MacBook Pro line has received the most generous support so far, with 2018 models still supported. And although that's likely because the 2018, 2019, and base model 2020 MacBook Pros all share the same or very, very similar versions of the same 8th generation ultra low power Intel Core i5 and i7 chipsets, the higher end 2020 13-inch MacBook Pro did take that step up to the 10th generation Intel chip. So one interesting anomaly to this is the iMac Pro, which Apple unveiled at WWDC 17 and released in December of that year. And it's definitely well past the 5 to 6 years of software support, but Apple seemingly wants to cater to the Pro customers that might be using that computer still. And I agree. They had some Pro customers that spent a lot of money on that 2017 iMac Pro, and so they want to continue to make those customers, those Pro customers, very happy and let them continue to get software updates on it. But at some point, even that is going to stop receiving software updates, potentially with macOS 16, but we'll see. In all likelihood, the version of macOS released in 2025, which will be macOS 16, and we don't know the name of it yet. We have to wait until Apple releases the name of macOS 16. But it will probably still support one final wave of Intel Macs, which would bring all of the Intel Macs to have at least 5 years of software support. And if they were to guess, the list of existing Intel Macs we have right now is probably pretty similar to what they will support with macOS 16. They might drop a couple like the 2019 iMac or the 2018 Mac Mini, and they didn't mention it here, but maybe even the 2017 iMac Pro, just because it's so old. But then again, it was so powerful back in 2017, they may give it one last OS update. Then I'd also expect that macOS 17 that comes out in 2026 will probably be the first Apple Silicon exclusive version of macOS. And they don't mention it here, but I thought this might be something you all would like to know. It's potential that the macOS installer could be smaller just because they don't have all the drivers and support for all the Intel Macs. It's only going to support the Apple Silicon processors, which is actually going to make the OS smaller. And so that will mark 6 years since Apple began its transition and around 6 years since Apple released the last Intel Mac. And it will also be over 3 years since Apple sold the last Intel Mac. And as you know, Intel users might likely need to count their days, seeing as they're probably around 2 years left with their current machine to get the latest macOS version. But of course, Apple will continue to give you 2 more years of security updates after the macOS feature updates are discontinued. So if you still happen to be using an Intel Mac like I am, because I actually just purchased a 2019 16-inch MacBook Pro, but it was completely maxed out. I mean, I'm incredibly happy with how fast that machine is, but I'm going to continue to use it as long as I possibly can. And the simple reason that I'm going to use that one is because I do a lot of virtualization. And because I do a lot of virtualization, I need to be able to show you how to do fixes on a lot of different operating systems, Linux, Windows, Mac, any of those. And so it really helps when I can have all of them on one machine instead of having to have my Mac and then have another machine to do my Linux and my Windows. Now, I know they are working on the virtualization to make it where you can do the Linux, the Mac, and the Windows on the new ARM processors or Apple Silicon. However, at the moment, it's not 100% refined, and they don't have it where you can do every OS version, because remember, you have to get an OS that'll support ARM. Until they can get either Parallels or VMware Fusion where they can run the really old versions of macOS, the old versions of Windows, and even versions of Linux, I'm probably gonna stick with that Intel as long as I can, and then I might have to have 2 different computers, one for the Linux and Windows and one for the Mac, just so that I can show you all how to do everything. I hope that was helpful for you all. If you do have any questions, comments, or just want to discuss this with me, please let me know down below in the comments, and I'll be more than happy to get back to you about it. And if there's a video, topic, or maybe an article that you want me to discuss with you all, please let me know that down below in the comments as well, and I will do my best to discuss that with you all. And as always, because you all do such a great job, if you can, hit that like and subscribe button so I can keep putting up more great content like how much longer are they going to support Intel Macs and give it macOS updates and upgrades, and I'll be more than happy to keep putting up all this great content for you all. Thanks so much, everybody. I really appreciate you all. I hope you have a great day. Take care. God bless, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.